New Explorer Core, First Arm, Spinward Operations Area, System J5241, Nadir Jump Point, March 1st, 3152. After 3 days burn toward the jump point, Olivia's anger had turned to resolve. This mission was in danger, and somebody had to say and do something about it. Her first stop was at Lieutenant Levitt's cabin, where they agreed that what happened was unacceptable and that Captain Rinn needed to account for it. That was putting it lightly. When the ship docked with the Rabbit's Foot, Olivia was the first through the airlock. Dividing and conquering, she headed toward the flight deck looking for the Holtz. Levitt was on his way up to the bridge to see if the captain was back on deck. Akif saw the look of steeled determination on Olivia's face and made a bet that he didn't want to be around when she found her target. He wisely offered to supervise the repair efforts on the Calliope and Thunderbolt. Olivia counted her steps as she walked through the ship. It focused her mind and let her play out how she expected this interaction to go. Her hand instinctively fell to the laser pistol on her hip, though she didn't expect things to go that far. When she reached the flight deck, both aerospace fighters were there, but neither of the Holtz. Turning on her heels, Olivia kept moving. Upon reaching the recreation deck, Olivia stopped in the doorway. Ariana was there, laying against Mai as they both watched something on a tablet computer. Tenica was cooking something on the little galley kitchen, and Kip was reclining on the two back feet of a chair with his feet up on the table. "Hey Olivia, glad to see you're back," Tenica said after noticing Olivia was there. Kip looked up from looking down into whatever he had in his mug and smirked at the mech warrior in the doorway. "Need something, hon?" Kip said in an intentionally dismissive manner. Olivia took one more deep breath before entering the room, walking to the table cat's corner to where Kip was reclining. "The captain ordered you to target civilians?" Olivia asked, in as calm a tone as possible. Kip sighed softly, in no rush to answer. After several long moments, he responded with, "I saved your butt out there. You should be far more appreciative." Olivia bristled slightly, but retained control. "When we get back to the Combine, I'm going to file my own report with the authorities. You won't be able to whitewash this." "You think the Combine's going to care about some squabbling serfs out on a planet they didn't even know about 5 minutes ago? Don't be naive," Kip said in a slightly more irritated tone. Olivia glanced over at Tenica, who had stopped cooking and was watching. Her hand was resting on her holstered pistol. Looking back toward Kip, Olivia's deep brown eyes focused on Kip's smug, grizzled features before responding. "You're not going to get away with this. I didn't sign up for a genocide." Ariana sat up with growing concern, but May reached out and placed her hand on the young pilot's arm in an unspoken "don't." Kip laughed at Olivia and then lifted his mug to his lips. The next few seconds slowed to a crawl in Olivia's mind as her temper won out and she swept her leg underneath Kip's chair, sending it out from under him and smacking hard on the thin rec room carpet. Kip fell back, his mug flying from his hands. He wasn't on the ground for long. The old fighter jockey was quicker than Olivia expected and was on his feet and grappling with her before she could properly shut him down. She could hear Ariana's voice telling them both to stop, but she had to get control of Kip first. Tenica pulled up Facile on her personal comlink as the two fighters knocked over the table and fell onto the floor. "You better get to the rec area. Kip and Olivia are going at it." "Aff," Facile said as he dropped what he was doing and started to run through the cramped hallways. "Get the hell off of me, you lunatic," Kip grunted. "You're the murderer," Olivia grunted as she tried to bend Kip's arm in an unnatural direction. Tenica didn't see who pulled the gun from Olivia's holster, but the first shot startled everyone in the room. The cooler door now had a quarter-sized blackened hole in it. The second shot sent Tenica diving behind cover as Olivia and Kip wrestled over the weapon. Olivia barked as Kip kneed her hard in the thigh, causing her muscles to cramp up in response. The third shot stopped the wrestling, as it was immediately followed by a scream from the other side of the room. Tenica peeked over the couch, where she was taking cover, her mouth dropping open in silent horror. Sitting on the edge of the sofa between May's legs, Ariana sat with a stunned look on her face, her eyes widening in fear as she tried to take her next breath, a breath that didn't occur. May's cry continued as the mech warrior stared at the hole that had been bored completely through the center of Ariana's chest and into May's shoulder. If time was moving slow before, It sped up now. Olivia watched as Ariana fell back against May's arms, her eyes still wide, face going pale as her body continued to struggle for an unobtainable breath. Kip roared, taking the opportunity to elbow Olivia in the face so hard that there was an audible crack. Operating on pure rage and grief, he pulled the gun free from their shared grip and stood up. His hand shook in an uncharacteristic fashion as he looked over at his daughter, now being cradled by an inconsolable May. A tear rolling down his cheek, he looked down at Olivia, who was now nursing a cracked jaw. He lifted the pistol, aiming it at her head. As his finger curled around the trigger, he breathed out and squeezed it. The gun throbbed gently as it was fired. When Olivia realized that she hadn't been shot, she opened her eyes to see Vasil gripping Kip's hand with the pistol still in it. The laser had passed through the elemental's fingers, burning partially through 2 of them and continuing up into the ceiling above. Kip screamed as Vasil's remaining fingers closed tightly around the weapon, snapping plastic parts and Kip's fingers in the process. The Elder Holt cried out as his hand was crushed. Tenica had her pistol out now, but it was clear there'd be no more fighting, even as the ship's general alarm started to go off, filling the room with oscillating red lights. "Medic! We need a medic in the MechWarrior rec room!" Tenica yelled into her comlink. Every eye in the room except for Vasil's were locked on Ariana. May pulled her close, resting her forehead against Ariana's. Olivia tried to fight back the tears as she watched May's anguish play out. The ache in her jaw was nothing compared to the pain her fellow MechWarrior was feeling in that moment. Vasil gripped Kip's shoulder with his free hand, keeping a hold of the pistol with the other, and led him out of the room. Kip groaned and cried out, "You killed her! You killed my girl! You're gonna pay!" His cries echoed in the hallway for a bit, and then there was silence. Olivia crawled up to her feet, even though her muscles protested every movement. When she stepped closer to Ariana, May's eyes snapped up to meet hers, and she growled, "Don't." Olivia's hands went up in a sign of contrition, and she stepped back. Tenica's hand slid over Olivia's shoulder, and her words seemed to bounce around in Olivia's traumatized brain. "Are you okay?" I don't know," Olivia said through her aching jaw. Tenica guided Olivia toward the door, saying, "Let's get you out of here." Bathed in the flashing red lights, May leaned in close to Ariana again. The pain in her own shoulder from where the laser had continued to burn even after passing through Ariana's body was just a dull ache. Closing her tear-soaked eyes, May spoke barely above a whisper. "Will you wait for me? I miss you already." New Explorer Corps, First Arm, Spinward Operations Area, System J5241. Nadir Jump Point, March 1st, 3152. As Olivia headed out of the dropship, Cal Levitt followed behind for a bit before turning toward the bridge of the jump ship. For the past 3 days, he had gone over every possible twist and turn for a conversation with Rin about what happened, and what has been happening. But none of them seemed to go well, even in his normally jovial outlook. When he reached the bridge, he felt a bit of relief in seeing Rin out of her cabin and apparently acting as captain again. That relief was short-lived as he stepped in and took a look at the slightly slouching Rin, who looked like she hadn't slept in months. In her hand was a glass with a couple of large ice cubes in it. Her uniform was wrinkled, and her normally very tightly bound red hair was hanging free over the back of the command chair. "Are you okay?" Levitt said, though he felt like an idiot immediately after the words left his mouth, as anyone with eyes could see that she wasn't. Slowly, Rin turned her head towards the lieutenant and said, "I'm fine, except for the fact that we're now apparently down another mech." The situation developed rapidly. "Rin, I was worried about you. Did you order the Holts to open fire on those settlements?" Levitt asked with a healthy amount of concern. The bridge crew busied themselves. If they were listening in, they were doing their best not to show it. Rin sighed before responding. "I gave him the order to fix the problem and make sure those settlements can't be a threat to each other again for a long time." Levitt furrowed his brow and crossed his arms. "What are we going to tell the Combine? The survivors are going to report what the Holts did." "They won't get that warped version of what happened long after ours. I did what I needed to do to save the mission and the people that are a part of it. Had I not given that order, Olivia would be dead. Akif could have been killed. The dropship and everyone on it could have been lost, Rin said with an increasing certainty in her voice. You didn't have to go that far, Levitt countered. I'll do anything for this mission. It's our destiny to keep going, Rin added as she got up from the chair and walked over to a cabinet where she had a bottle of something noxious waiting. Levitt's concern was only growing as he watched his oldest friend refill her glass. It's not like you to drink on duty, he said. You're dismissed, Lieutenant, Rin said as she returned to the command chair. Levitt was about to challenge her when the ship's general alarm started to flash. Tenika's voice came over the comlink shortly after. Lieutenant Levitt, you better get down here. Something terrible's happened between Olivia and Kip. Really bad. Levitt frowned at Rin before turning and running from the bridge. The captain barely noticed as she pulled up her tablet and began looking at possible destinations for their next jump. When Levitt arrived at the infirmary, he was quickly confused, trying to parse out what might have happened. Olivia was sitting on a bed on one side of the bay, with Tenika and a member of the science team working on a piece of headgear to keep her jaw in place. On the other side of the room, Kip was staring daggers at Olivia, with a clearly injured hand on a fold-out tray being looked at by a ship's medic. Between them stood Vasil, holding a clearly broken laser pistol in one hand and a combat blade the size of an ancient gladius in the other. What the heck happened? Levitt asked, running his hand through his salt and pepper hair. That trash killed my daughter, Kip immediately belted out. Olivia didn't respond other than just shaking her head, which hurt enough that she stopped quickly. The pain in her jaw was starting to intensify now that the adrenaline from the fight had worn off. Ariana, where is she? Vasil responded as he tossed Levitt the broken pistol. He said, She is in the rec room with May. There was a fight. The pistol was fired multiple times. Ariana was hit incidentally. That's bull. I save her life and she kills my daughter. Of course the clanner would be on her side, Kip snapped. Tenika piped up from where she was leaning against the medbay cabinetry. She said, It's Olivia's pistol, but sorting out who fired it's tough. They were both grappling for it, and 2 shots hit nothing, the third hit Ariana. Kip shook his head and fell back onto the bed, looking away from everyone. Levitt looked up at Vasil and asked, Can you keep things calm here? Vasil nodded, and Levitt turned, walking out into the hallway. He'd wanted to stop and lean against something. This all seemed to be falling apart so quickly, and he didn't know what to do. He placed his hand on the cool metal wall and tried to find some calm before continuing his walk to the recreation deck. By the time he reached it, the alarms were off and the 2 science team members with some medical training were looking at May's shoulder. She sat on the edge of the couch with her elbows on her knees. Her face showed anguish and exhaustion. As Levitt walked in, his eyes fell to the sheet covering Ariana's body, which was now on the floor. How badly are you wounded? Levitt asked. I'll live, May responded. I'm sorry about Ariana. I know you two had grown close lately, Levitt said, wishing he had the right combination of words to dull the pain on her face. We have to go back to the Combine, May said. I know. I don't know how quickly we can do that, Levitt replied. May's eyes remained locked on Ariana as she spoke. I don't think I can be around them. Not after this. I hear you. I will talk to Rin. I'll see if we can work something out. We'll get you your full contracted pay. I promise, Levitt said, still searching his mind for a way to fix this. I don't care. Just get me off this ship, May grunted as the medic pulled the pressure patch tab which sealed the mech warrior's shoulder in place and would keep it from getting infected. We'll figure something out. Until we sort out up from down, I'm going to ask that everybody stay in their cabins. Levitt paused before continuing. We'll get Ariana somewhere safe until people can cool off and we can make arrangements. I said my goodbyes, May responded, not lifting her eyes from Ariana. End part 11. Thank you for watching. I know this episode was going to be a rough one to write, but hopefully you feel it was worth your valuable time. As always, if you appreciate the story and want to support the creation of more BattleTech content, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Every little bit helps, and I would love to keep going to do my part to help the community grow. If you have a theory as to what might happen next to our plucky band of adventurers, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Take care, and go make the world a slightly better place today and tomorrow.